Someone good comes along. Genuinely, quietly, consistently good, and something in you immediately feels wrong. Not wrong like danger, wrong like unfamiliar, like wearing something that doesn't quite fit yet. They text back quickly, and it makes you nervous instead of relieved. They are kind, and it makes you suspicious. They say exactly the right thing at exactly the right moment, and instead of feeling safe, you feel exposed. So you start looking, not consciously, but looking for the flaw, for the catch, for the thing that explains this. Because love that doesn't hurt yet feels like a trap you haven't found the mechanism of yet. Or maybe you found someone good, and you stayed, for a while, and then you burned it down yourself, picked a fight that didn't need to happen, pulled away without explanation, found a reason it couldn't work, and watched something real and good disappear, and felt relieved, and then immediately felt devastated by that relief. If any of that lives somewhere familiar in you, this video is going to explain something you have needed to understand. Today we are talking about why some people are genuinely scared of being loved correctly, and why this is not about not wanting love. It is about what love has historically cost them to receive. Let's start with something that sounds almost impossible on the surface, but is completely true underneath. Most people do not actually want what they say they want in a relationship, not because they are lying, but because what they say they want and what their nervous system is comfortable receiving are two very different things. The mind says, I want someone kind, stable, consistent, safe, someone who shows up, someone who stays. But the nervous system, which was trained long before the mind had words for any of this, says something else. This feels too calm, too predictable, too easy. Something must be wrong that I cannot see yet. Stay alert. And that conflict between what the mind wants and what the body will allow is where the fear of good love lives. Psychologists trace this back to something called attachment theory. Developed by John Bowlby in the 1960s, Bowlby found that the patterns of connection we experience in our earliest relationships become our internal blueprint, a template the brain uses to predict what love is supposed to look like, what it is supposed to feel like, what it is supposed to cost, and what it is supposed to eventually do to you. For children who grew up with consistent, warm, available caregivers, the blueprint says, love is safe. Love shows up. Love stays. Love does not require you to earn it or perform for it or brace against it. But for children who grew up with love that was unpredictable, conditional, painful, or absent entirely, the blueprint says something completely different, and that blueprint runs silently beneath every relationship that follows. Love comes and goes. Love has conditions attached that change without warning. Love eventually hurts. Prepare accordingly. And then someone healthy arrives. Someone whose love does not come and go, does not have hidden conditions, and the nervous system, reading from the only blueprint it has ever known, says this does not match, something is wrong. Now let's talk about what this actually looks like inside a relationship with someone who is genuinely good. The first thing that often happens is a search for the flaw. Active or unconscious, it begins almost immediately. Nobody is this consistent, nobody is this kind without wanting something. I just haven't found what it is yet. This is not paranoia. This is a nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do, protect against the inevitable disappointment. The second thing that happens is a discomfort with the absence of intensity, and this one surprises people most. Relationships built on anxiety, uncertainty, and hot and cold behavior feel familiar to people with painful blueprints. The highs feel higher because the lows were so low. The love feels more real because it had to be fought for. Healthy love, by contrast, can feel flat, boring even, not because it is less, but because it is more consistent. And consistency, to a nervous system calibrated for chaos, can feel like the absence of feeling rather than its presence. Psychologists call this the misidentification of anxiety as passion. The brain confuses emotional activation with love. The racing heart that comes from not knowing where you stand gets interpreted as chemistry, as electricity, as real. And the steady warmth of someone who simply loves you reliably gets interpreted as something lacking, something less. So people leave safe relationships feeling like something was missing, when what was missing was the anxiety they mistook for love. Let's talk about the specific ways fear of healthy love shows up in behavior inside relationships. Some people self-sabotage. They create conflict where none existed, push to see if the person will leave like others did. Testing, constantly and exhaustingly testing. not because they want the relationship to fail, but because they need evidence, proof that this person is different, and the only proof their brain trusts is surviving the test. Other people emotionally withdraw. The relationship is good, and they go cold, and they do not fully understand why. The closeness triggered something old, and the instinct said create distance before this person can hurt you first. And some people simply leave. At the exact moment, things become real and stable and genuinely promising. They walk away from the best thing that has happened to them and spend years afterward wondering what was wrong with them. Nothing was wrong with them. Something was unfamiliar to them, and unfamiliar to a wounded nervous system feels like wrong. Now let's talk about something that is deeply uncomfortable but important to understand about this pattern. People who are scared of healthy love often unconsciously seek out partners who confirm the painful blueprint instead, not because they want to be hurt, but because pain is legible. Pain is what love has always looked like. An unavailable partner activates the familiar pursuit, the uncertainty that reads like passion, the conditional love that feels known. And the brain, presented with something familiar, relaxes in a way it never could with someone genuinely available. This is why the pattern repeats, not because they are unlucky, but because they are unconsciously choosing familiarity over health. And that choice happens below conscious awareness most of the time. They are not doing it on purpose. They are doing what every nervous system does when given the choice between the known and the unknown. It chooses the known, even when the known is painful, because pain you recognize feels safer than peace you don't. Let's talk about what this fear cost people over time, because the cost accumulates quietly and significantly. It cost them the relationships that could have genuinely held them, the ones that end because they could not let them begin. It cost them years spent in painful dynamics that confirm the old story, when a different story was always available. And it cost them a particular kind of loneliness, the loneliness of being unable to receive the love that is being offered, of watching someone good stand right in front of you with something real and not being able to take it fully in. That specific loneliness is one of the heaviest feelings a person can carry, and most people carry it in complete silence. Now here is where this story changes direction, because this pattern, as deeply rooted as it is not permanent. The blueprint was written early, but it was written in pencil, not in stone, and pencil can be rewritten over time. Healing does not require finding the perfect person and then suddenly being able to receive their love without fear. It begins much earlier than that. It begins with recognizing the fear for what it actually is, not a sign that something is wrong with the relationship, but a sign that something old is being triggered inside you. When the person is kind and something in you goes cold, the question to ask is not what is wrong with them. The question is, what did I just feel, and where have I felt that before, and what did it mean back then? Because the answer to that question is always behind you, in something that happened before this relationship existed. And once you can see the old blueprint clearly, you have something you did not have before, a choice. The choice to act from the blueprint or to act from what is actually in front of you right now, in this moment. That choice will not feel natural at first. Staying when every old instinct says run will feel genuinely terrifying, but every time you stay, every time you let the kindness land, every time you do not burn down what is good, the blueprint gets a small rewrite, and slowly, over time, love that does not hurt starts to feel like something you are allowed to have, because you always were. Subscribe if this finally explains something about yourself you could never quite put into words before.